Hey, you guys, it's Lady Breeze, and I'm back. What you said, I'm back. Say it again, I'm back. Hey, y'all, I'm back. And for those of you new to my channel, I am Lady Breeze. I am a wife and a mother of 4. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I felt when I found out that my 2 children were on the autism spectrum. Both of my children got diagnosed within a couple of months apart, and I was pregnant. I was dealing with a high risk pregnancy, multiple complications at the same time as going through a double diagnosis of autism with my 2 children. So my husband worked 12 hours a day, 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, and he worked night shift. So he worked all night and he slept majority of the day. And I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. So I do everything for my children. And I noticed whenever my son was about a year old, maybe a little older than a year, he wasn't really doing what other 1-year-olds do. He was kind of delayed. And so I talked to the pediatrician, and she got him put in this program where he could get like therapy services and things like that through early intervention. And I can remember I just felt like I was getting hit blow after blow after blow. First, my son was delayed. Then my daughter was delayed. I'm sorry, excuse them in the background. They at home, they trying to be comfortable in their own environment. But what I was saying was my children were going through a early intervention service program receiving speech therapy. And then my husband and I noticed that whenever we would talk to them, to my son and my daughter, it was like they were having trouble hearing us. So not only were they delayed, but then on top of that, it's like they couldn't hardly hear. So I really didn't know what to expect. I really didn't know what this journey was going to entail, but I did know that at that time, I felt like I was just getting hit blow after blow after blow. I was just trying to be, the best parent that I could be. I was trying to do all that I could do for my children to try and give them the best lifestyle or the best life that I possibly could. And it just seemed like every time I turned around, I was getting hit with something or another. And then in the midst of all of that, the therapists were like, your child needs this, your child needs that. And I wasn't in a financial place where I could afford everything that they needed. So a lot of the times I had to literally come up with ways to make a replica of the item that they said my children needed because I couldn't afford the original. I can remember I was just like, God, why me? Like, why am I going through this? Why do it got to be my kids? And I don't know if it was just me being all up in my feelings or if other people who have children on the spectrum feel that way. But I was just like, are my children being punished for something that I've done? Like, I could not understand why it was me. It's one thing to have one child on the spectrum, but I think rarely do you ever find someone who has multiple children on the spectrum. And so we literally had to deal with that. Like, my husband and I, it was just us and our children. We don't have family that lives here where we live. Like, our family was, a couple of hours away and things like that. So we were literally doing it on our own. I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed because my husband was always working. I mean, I knew he had to work because we had to pay bills, but it was a lot for one person to deal with. It was like really, really depressed, really, really sad. I can remember I didn't want to get out of bed. I did it because I knew I had to, but deep down inside, I really didn't want to. I was just like really, really in a dark place. And when we had to go to the next state over to a children's hospital in the next state over for my children to get their diagnosis. We went there, and when my son got diagnosed, he was first. When he got diagnosed, I was about 5 months pregnant. And we sat there for about 4.5, almost 5 hours for them to like go through all of these questions and running tests and all kinds of stuff. And then in the end, they came back and they told us what we already knew, but I think it's more so what I already knew, but I just really, really didn't want to hear it, that my son was autistic. And I can remember I just sat in the doctor's office and I just cried, and I began to think, what did I do wrong? What could I have done to change the outcome? Why me? Why my child? All these different things was just running through my mind, and I was just crying, and I was so heartbroken, not because he has a disability, not because other people are going to see him as different, but because that's my baby. And when we have children, we want our children to be untouched, unharmed. I think when we as women find out that we are pregnant, the number one thing that we really want is a healthy baby. We want to be able to deliver a child in this world with no complications, with no, in a sense, we want our baby to be perfect. Even though no one is perfect, deep down inside, you just want a happy, healthy baby. That's it. And my children were that. They were happy, they were healthy, but they just had challenges along the way. After being depressed for so long and feeling alone and feeling like I had nobody I could relate to, after feeling that way for so long, I can remember I went to the doctor, and the doctor asked me, pretty much, what's wrong with you? Like, you're not yourself. What's the matter? And I tried to give her like a little rundown. And as I was telling her, just some of the things that I was dealing with at home, I can remember my son tried to jump out the car as I was driving down the freeway headed to the doctor. Like, it's real. It is so real. There are things that autism parents or parents of children with special needs go through that we don't speak on. I would like get on YouTube, I would get on Google, and I would try to see, how do you cope with this? How do you deal with this? I didn't want to get to a point where I had a mental breakdown, but I felt like I was at that point. I can remember there's times where both kids will be screaming and hollering and crying, and because they couldn't talk and because they couldn't really hear, I couldn't accommodate their needs. I didn't know what it was they needed. There's times where I would sit there and I would cry, and we would just cry together. Yes, I did. I would sit there, and me and my two babies, we would just cry together because I didn't know what they needed. And I'm sure they didn't know how to tell me what they needed because they couldn't communicate with me. Sign language has been a really big help, but it wasn't a perfect fix because they didn't know all the signs. They only knew certain signs like eat, more, yes, no, stop, things to get them through a certain period of time, but it wasn't enough. And I reached out to a therapy place to try and get my children's services. And they said that we made too much money for like grant help, but we didn't make enough money to pay for it out of pocket. And it was like over $3,000 per kid per month. I had 2 kids. I couldn't afford that. And my doctor was like, you're going through a lot. Like, you need to take some time for yourself. But I didn't see me being able to take time for myself. I saw me basically trying to do whatever my children needed to have done on a daily basis. I kept neglecting myself. And it got to the point where my midwife was like, if you don't get some me time and get your mind right and get yourself together, I'm going to have to commit you into the psych ward at the hospital for a 72-hour hold. Like, it was that serious. Everywhere I reached out for help, it was like they could only help to a certain extent. Like, they really couldn't give me all the help that I really felt like I needed. They would chew on their clothes and it would have like holes in it. And like, I was really, really sad whenever they had to go to school because I was like, people are going to think I'm a bad parent because my kids are going to school with holes in their clothes. And it wasn't that I couldn't afford them nice clothes or new clothes. I actually would spend money on clothes and shoes and things for them on a regular. But because they would chew on them on a regular, I could pop the tag off of a shirt and put it on my son. And before the day is over with, it would have multiple holes in it from where he just chew and chew and chew. And so I was like really, really concerned. And I was like, I don't want people to think I'm a bad parent. I don't want people to think I'm an unfit parent. I don't want people to, judge me because I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing all that I know how to do. They don't understand danger. They didn't understand danger then. They still don't understand danger now. This is not stuff that I went through and then overcame and now they're better. This is stuff that I still go through. My grandmother said something to me, and she says it often. She says it really often. She says, baby, God don't give those kids to just anybody. He give them to people that he know can handle it. And so after her saying that a few times, then it began to click. Okay, God did this for a reason. God gave me these children for a reason. Now I have to figure out what that reason is and how I can help these children. So in the midst of all of that, I developed the need to encourage myself, because you can only be down and depressed and sad for so long, and then it takes a complete toll on your mental health. So there's many of days where days like this, I literally have to go and I have to look in the mirror and I have to have a pep talk with myself, and I have to explain to myself, you were equipped for this. You were made for this. You can handle this. Period. It's not easy. It's not fun, but you can do this. You have to do this, because if you don't, your children will not succeed. I'm the reason why my children are going to succeed in this world. Nobody else is going to be held accountable for my children except for me, because they are my children. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're dealing with, but you're going to have to do what you got to do so that your babies can be successful. It's not easy and it's not fun, but you got this. You are equipped for this. You are made for this. You can handle this. You go out there and you be the best you that you can be. You do the best that you can do. And if you fail today, then you go to sleep and you try it again tomorrow, because tomorrow is a new day. It's a new day. You got to do what you got to do to push through. Focus on you. Take care of you. I hope y'all like this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.